Hello and welcome. This is exactly what the title says. I want to talk about some differences between Samata and Vipassana meditation. Now, I am not an expert. I can't teach you how to do Vipassana meditation or Samata meditation. I could tell you some things, but I'm not a teacher of it, and my knowledge is very incomplete. So that's not what this is. I'm not telling you how to do these meditation practices. What I am doing is trying to explain the difference between the two. What I have experienced is that many Westerners, particularly Westerners, they kind of find a teacher and they're not really aware that there are many different types of meditation, and they just take up the practice with a particular teacher, and then after a year or two they find out that there are actually many different types of meditation, and maybe this kind of meditation is not really the best for them, not really the most suitable, and then they have problems, and maybe they stay or maybe they change, but it's difficult. So it's very good if from the beginning we realize that there are different types of meditation and actually look around and examine them and see which is best for us. For example, there is a Tibetan style of meditation, which, at least in the initial stages, mostly involves visualization rather than real meditation. So you're visualizing different scenarios and trying to build up your concentration in that way, trying to build up your ability to see things that you are piecing together in your mind, and your progress will be assessed on the basis of how well you can put together these visualizations and get something out of them. Samatha and Vipassana are in the Theravada tradition of Buddhism, and there's quite a lot of misunderstanding about them, I would say. The real problem is that within the Theravada tradition itself, there is something of a split, and there is on the one side a group of people who believe that Samatha meditation or Samadi meditation, people might be more familiar with that term, is the way that the Buddha taught, and the suttas support this, and you go into a series of levels, or you achieve a certain number of levels of meditative absorption, which are called jhanas, jhana 1, jhana 2, jhana 3, jhana 4, and on the basis of that you then do vipassana, which is seeing things as they truly are. And all Buddhists agree that you need to do the Vipassana aspect in order to reach enlightenment or nibbana. However, the people who support the Samadhi approach, like I said, say that the Buddha and the suttas support a view of things whereby the Buddha is advising his monks to go through the jhanas, and talks about the arising of joy and bliss, and this really happens through Samatha meditation. Vipassana is not famous for joy and pleasure arising, and the idea is that through doing the Samatha meditation, concentration meditation, a lot of pleasure is achieved, and eventually from that one-pointed concentration you are able to achieve clear-sightedness or insight by either examining your experience after coming out of jhana, after coming out of the meditation, or some people say even within, some schools teach even within the jhana you can do vipassana meditation. The vipassana can happen inside the samatha meditation. So these teachers say that that's the way to do it, and this is the way that the Buddha taught, as is clear from the long Anapanasati Sutta, or the Anupada Sutta, where his chief disciple Sariputta is going through the different levels of the jhanas and also talking about how he is watching everything in the jhana momentarily arising, peaking and ceasing, the moments arising, peaking and ceasing. So this would seem to suggest that Sariputta at least was able to see Vipassana inside the jhana. And people say that this is the right way, this is the way the Buddha did it, and you should start with the Samata meditation and the Vipassana will come naturally. The other school says that there is a separation between Samatha and Vipassana, and Samatha meditation is okay to develop concentration, but you will never get to Nibbana that way. And you need to do a fairly austere practice of Vipassana in order to achieve Nibbana. It's fair to say that this point of view is not really there in the suttas. The idea of separation between the two, it seems that the Buddha is mostly talking about a unified practice, but the place you will find the idea of Samatha and Vipassana as separate is the Abhidhamma, the commentaries on the suttas, written by monks, presumably, after the parinirvana of the Buddha. And the people who support Samatha say that the monks often got it wrong. They didn't see what was really important, and they developed ideas of the Buddha in wrong ways. The group who supports it say that all the ideas in the Abhidhamma are just really explicating ideas from the Buddha in the suttas, or developing them in logical ways which are obviously related directly to what the Buddha was talking about. So either everything in the Abhidhamma is just simply an explanation, a longer explanation of what the Buddha said in a short way, or else sometimes it's developing points at more length that can be inferred from what the Buddha said. So you have the one school which believes strongly in the Abhidhamma, and they tend to be the Vipassana meditators, and the other school doesn't believe so much in the Abhidhamma, if at all, and base themselves on what the Buddha said in the suttas, and they support the Samadhi meditation much more and say that you don't need to do Vipassana as a separate practice, because you can do it in jhana or you can do it after coming out of Samadhi. In fact, one thing that the two schools share is a view that their practice is sufficient. It's not really necessary to do the practice of the other school. If you find yourself in a position where you want to practice both, then probably your teachers will discourage you and say, no, this practice of Vipassana is enough, or this practice of jhana meditation is enough. You can see Nibbana just by going along this path. So you can see there is a major difference here, and it's very important that you do a bit of research before you make your choice about which path you believe is suitable for you. Otherwise you will start not knowing anything about it, and maybe after a year or so people will start to tell you about the other practice. Tell you, oh, did you know that there is also a jhana meditation practice where they don't really do Vipassana like this? Or else if you're doing the jhanas, somebody might say, well, did you know there's a Vipassana practice which cuts out a lot of the stuff that you need to do with Samadhi practice and can take you to Nibbana quicker. So there's certain mutual exclusiveness to these two types of meditation, and it will be worth your while to study the two types of meditative practices within the Theravada tradition carefully before you make your decision about which type of practice you want to follow. So what I'm saying is really directed particularly at Westerners who don't know much about probably these meditative traditions and are likely to just find a teacher perhaps by chance, and they start practicing in that tradition, and they don't even know that there are other traditions, and then later they find there are, and they have some conflicts and so on and so forth. Much better to do your homework at the beginning, understand there are different traditions, and consider which one you think is best for you. Because chances are that once you've been doing one of these practices for a long time, you will be strongly discouraged by your teachers, whether they be the jhana teachers or the vipassana teachers, to try out the other style of practice. So better that you understand from the beginning how things are, and maybe try a little bit of both before you discover which one you want to dedicate yourself to long term. So those are my ideas about samatha and um, vipassana practice. I hope that they are useful to someone out there, and I wish you all the best with your practice. So thank you. Thanks again.